Yo, what's up? It's your boy Brandon Basil. Pardon the background. There's more other things more important. So I'm doing a review on White People. I just finished it. Like I'm still looking at the credits right now. I wanted to do this fresh. Um, it's Dear White People, and I'm gonna just hop right into it. It's a great show. It's a great show. If for those who don't know, Dear White People, the television show on Netflix, the series on Netflix is a continuation of the movie by the same title, which was released a few years back. The movie featured a different cast with some of the actors were different. Some of the cast were played by different. Some of the characters were played by different actors, but honestly, a lot of the initial actors are still apparent, still there. The characters are still apparent, still there. It's just a continuation of the story from the movie. It picks up shortly before the events of the movie, and gives some information of the characters' lives. Each episode, I think, is 10 episodes. 10 episodes, all about 20 to 30 minutes long. Each episode gives depictions of the characters and how they were and their lives leading up to the events of the movie. Um, the movie ended with and actually the movie shows this at the beginning of the movie. The movie ends with a some of the students on this college campus um having a blackface party where everybody dressed up, where the white people painting themselves in black face painting through a nigga party with booze and 40s and hip hop rap music and shit. um Dear White People, the title is referring to the protagonist, Sam White. She has a radio show called Dear White People where she tells white people things about themselves and speaks on racism in America and on their student campus. Um, okay, well, starting with Sam White. This is probably gonna this I'm not worried about spoilers in here, so if you should just go see it before you watch this. I don't really care, but I'm gonna just dive into it. Some of these characters, the characters, Sam White, she's the protagonist. She speaks outrightly about racism that white people do, but as we see in the movie, she is a biracial child. She is outright, apparently, I mean, obviously light skinned, but she is a child of a biracial couple. Her father was white, which could be part of the reasoning why she speaks against white racism, but she dates a white man. Um, Complicates things, to say the least. Complicates the story, to say the least. Um, Later on, okay. Well, what I will say about Sam White and a lot of the characters in here, in the movie, in the show, and in the movie, they are a bit archetypes. They are archetypes of different people. Initially, they are archetypes of the different images of people characters that you would see on a real college campus. I mean, I went to college for a great deal of time, and but my college was a diverse campus and college, but we still racism was still a bit of a thing. I ain't gonna say racism so much, like not necessarily racial discrimination and oppression, but we at the college had a moment at a very diverse college. We had a moment where we had to acknowledge the fact that we were diverse but separated. Everybody had their different groups. There were plenty of student organizations, the Asian Students Association, Arab Student Association, Islamic students, Muslim. I mean, the same thing. But there were different associations and groups for different things, many different things. I was president of the Deaf Poets Society. Holla at your boy. But I guess, and in the movie, in the show, later on in the show, one of the larger plot devices is this thing about them wanting to, their housing is already pretty much separated, segregated. They have the primarily white dorms, the primarily black dorms, the one with a little bit of whites and Asians and things like that. And I will say, throughout the movie and the series, the importance of shared experiences and shared cultures is an issue. It's like how important is it? How necessary is it for you to be with people of your own kind? Um, and with that, how can you really define who is your own kind? Um, I think that's like what that's something that is really getting at because I mean, if you don't feel like you belong here, you got to go somewhere else. And I feel like Sam White as a character, she has, because of the fact that she is biracial, she has to mitigate this in different ways. All of these people, all the characters have to mitigate belonging in different ways, and especially through their as it is affected by. They have to mitigate belonging as it is affected by their past experience in their lives. Sam White was she's biracial, but she's pretty much the most outspoken black person on campus, black female, and everything that comes along with that in terms of romance, and I'll get to that. But by comparison, Calandria Coco, she is black. She is outright dark skinned, and she is driven, just as driven as Sam White, but she she goes about it in different ways. She's not her MO isn't to be as volatile as revolutionary. I mean, I would say that her goal is to be as revolutionary in practice and in presenting producing results, but her goal is to go about it in a lot smoother ways. I would say some people might say more whitewashed ways. Um, you know, just saying. But by comparison, um, and there's a different other archetypes that we have at play here. Well, I would say that Sam White is the outspoken biracial girl on campus. Calandria she's very business minded, professional, ambitious in everything that she does, but she knows as a black woman, and because of the fact that when her growing up, she couldn't hide her black skin, she couldn't hide her blackness. It was never in question. She was always initially firsthand subjected to the black experience. Um, Troy, he's the son of the dean of the campus, and he's somewhat the archetype of the black male superhero. Um, he's definitely political in his endeavors, but to a certain who's just is very apparent. Is not by his own choice. It's only by his father's pushing him to be. Um, I would say Reggie is he's the black. He's also seen as a black superhero, but from a different angle. He's not as popular as Troy. He doesn't have that father figure that's pushing him to do so much, this, that, and third. To be so much of a prominent figure and player on the campus and everything like that. But by no means is Reggie any less smart. They have the moment where he schools the entire party on trivia, like outright, knowing black knowledge and white folks knowledge. And shoot, shout out to Reggie because I'd be like that too. Like, that's a part of he. I would say he had a moment where he said, I know my shit and I know y'all shit. And it's like, as a black male, as an educated black male, as an outspoken black male, you kind of have to know both sides. The knowing of both sides of black and white culture, as if culture in itself is as polarized as black and white. Is it really? Maybe it is, especially in America. Not so much. I mean, there's Asians, and Asians get a shout out in the show also. But even Asians have to pick whether they're going to be black or white, accepted by the black community or white community to certain extents. But it is an important thing. You can't just be an outspoken black person and not. Well, you can't be an outspoken black person and truthfully all shunning white people. It is detrimental to your cause. It's detrimental to the cause if you can't have a real conversation with a white person about the issues and knowing showing that you understand. But moving forward, Lionel, he is he's gay. He's the white. I mean, he's a black writer. He's the black voice of truth the throughout the movie. He's gay, but his sexuality doesn't play as much of a driving factor in the plot, but it is there, and especially with the fact that he is roommate to Troy, the black superhero archetype. That it complicates things in a good way. It adds tension and development to the story. Um, okay, and also we have Gabe is Sam's white male lover. Um, I like Gabe as a character, but he don't seem like he right for her for because of his own actions and because I will say the show does a thing with fashion. The fashion definitely depicts the characters very well, and it's very apparent, truthfully, especially to my eyes, when you see all these other characters, especially the black characters. They funky, got vibrant colors just popping off and everything like that, rags and scarves, and just flavorful. And then you see Gabe stripped down, like plainly dressed white male. And I mean, to a certain extent, he sometimes seems like he could get some white boy soul points. Um, he might got some soul. He kind of looks him like he's chill and everything. But I ain't even gonna front like but he don't seem like he doesn't get it. And it's apparent from the early episodes when Sam brings him to meet her black friends, and he says something about he's talking to Reggie and everything. He's like, "What, are you going to hit me?" And then Reggie's like, "I usually solve my problems without violence. I should hit you for thinking that I'm going to hit you." And it's like, "Yo, you got me wrong." He had him wrong from the jump. He read Reggie wrong from the jump early on. It's like, you trying to be down with this sister that's about the cause, and you don't get it. You don't get the cause that she's really fighting for, and you say you love her, but you don't get her cause. So do you really love her for who she really is fully? Um, and then especially later, this is even further supported by the fact that when the whole party incident, Gabe if Gabe had never made a phone call, Reggie wouldn't have ended up at gunpoint. But I mean, honestly, when it happened, when the cops came in and ended up and eventually held Reggie at gunpoint, Reggie was into a tussle with a white male who was throwing the party. And I mean, that whole moment had exploded out of control. But I mean, the fact, but he called the cops. Who knows in the exact moment when he called the cops? Quotes. But who knows the exact moment when he called the cops and what he had saw that made him call the cops? He could have been just called them. It would make a difference if he called them earlier on before they got the hand on hand, or if when they were still just talking. For the cops to get there that fast, he would have had to call them when they were still just talking. So but I will say one thing about Gabe's character. He does seem down for the cause. He's trying to learn. He's trying to work it. He's trying to put footwork to the cause. But one thing about love, and people have been saying this to me recently, it seems at times that white people find white couples, white people in general, white youth especially, find it easier to find love than black people do. For whatever reasons, historical oppression that separated and created distance between black families, black males and females that both genders through different broke both genders through different means throughout history. But it's like he's easier to say that I love you when I mean, not to say that Reggie didn't love Sam just as well, honestly, but he says I love you, and it doesn't seem that he truly loves her. I mean, just as I said, he doesn't fully understand the causes that she's fighting for. And I will say, to a certain extent, at the beginning of the series and in the movie, it seems that Sam's mo isn't really love. She likes the sex that they have, but it's not so much about that. I mean, to a certain extent, she seemed like she's just caught up in being a woman, meaning that she's not worried about marriage and love and the serious relationships. She's a hardworking woman, and she's just kind of just trying to get hers, and that's fine. She's entitled to that. Everybody is entitled to that. But then sometimes, and I've seen this. I mean, I've seen this. I've lived this. The events of the movie. I've lived it. Some of these experiences would not happen outside of higher education. So, not gonna say that, but yeah, the experiences in the story, the plot would not happen. Is necessary for this to be a place of education, a place where all of these races are forced to be around each other. Forced, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, the point that I was trying to get at is okay. Well, another point. Joelle is a very interesting character too. She's a very important character. She is essentially she's like best friend to Sam, but I mean, she's not as outspoken, as volatile as Sam. Sam, as the character grows, she does some kind of shady stuff, and she is a bit of an anarchist to a certain extent, self-serving anarchist, just for the sake of creating disruption. Her goal, she says, is her goal is to create disruption. So it means as a means to make people forced to deal with the problems. But with that, you can see how that plays out throughout the rest of the movie and the series. How successful she is at that. Um, all of these characters, they come off as archetypes, but as the events play out, it becomes they become more human. Um, I feel that the race and romance, it gets romance in this series is so much complicated by race. It's like it's sad. And I will say that was a feeling that I had about the movie also. It was afterwards, it was like, yo, God help us all. Because if race were not an issue, these people would be able to love each other a lot more smoothly. It wouldn't be as much of a complication. Um, I feel like Gabe comes to that realization at the end of the series, but it's just like because in the at the end of the movie they had a moment where Sam pleaded with Gabe over their relationship and everything because she has a white father, and she was open about that you know maybe to a certain extent, very very much so, how people behave. Maybe the reason why she is truly attracted to Gabe is because of his whiteness, and the fact that his whiteness likens him to her father. Many times people say that women go after a man that is just like their father, whereas she's spending so much time and productively um, outwardly and productively with Reggie, who is down for the cause. He's fighting for black power and everything like that. But initially, she doesn't seem attracted to him. But then after he has his episode, and he ends up taking her to an open mic. I ain't gonna front, I saw him as a different kind of brother myself. I mean, at first I saw him, he's a pro black brother, and I respect that and everything about him and everything like that. But then I saw him at an open mic, and then he kind of seemed like a different kind of brother that I would see. Um, I mean, I love open mics, hang out open mic, but you know, you just see him in a kind of open mic. It wasn't a bohemian open mic with all brothers with locks and things like that. It was a bunch of white people, and then she kind of pleaded with him. She pleaded with him more then, and it's like she pleaded with him with Reggie more for romance then, and then later they had some other stuff that happened where they had sex. It's like, was that inkling of whiteness from Reggie, that he's white enough, that in his soul he's white enough to hang around a bunch of white people at an open mic. Was that inkling enough to trigger true attraction to a certain extent? How true attraction with it within Sam? Um, was that the piece that she needed? What did she need? Some whiteness before she could love a black man? And then later on, she still thinks of him as just her brother, and it's just like, why? It, there was certain moments where I felt like he was kind of saying, "You don't fuck with me," like especially at the open mic, she was trying to talk to him. You could have told me about this, and he's like, "Well, I brought Joelle here." And it's like, you be distancing me. You don't fuck with me. I brought Joelle because she be fucking with me more. Like, not fucking like sex, but just don't really be reaching to try to hang with me. And it just be like that. And I will say I've seen that on the black campus. I mean, not black campuses, but college campuses. I will say after Reggie and Sam started to hang around each other more, after they got a little more romantically involved, and especially with the movement, then they had a moment where they one of their flyers that had gotten printed up and everything. It had a spelling error on it, and it was a very apparent spelling error. And Reggie's reply, he was like, "Oh, I didn't see that." He was like, "Oh, but you look so fierce and cute." And it's just like, sometimes love complicates things when you're trying to push the movement. I mean, even amongst people who are of the same mindset. And sometimes I would say that could be a reason why Sam distances herself from Reggie initially, because she knows that love and romance would complicate things from the productive side of things. Because then if she get involved with Reggie, then they would actually have an argument and a falling out. She could lose one of her strongest companions for the cause. So maybe her safety, she knows that she's advocating for the black cause, her safety point, so that she can have a world outside of it all, is to have a white lover. And, which is ironic It's because the fact is what you're talking about. She's talking about race so much. She advocating for race so much. Sometimes we want to. If I got to work here all day, I want something my time away from it. I don't want to think about work. But really, how can she do that? The fact that she has a white lover. I mean, at the end of the day, though her black friends is kind of like, yo, you do what you do what you do. But in real life, she would probably lose like all legitimacy for how is how she goes about it. She'd be so volatile about it, and then you got a white lover, and honestly, it ain't like he's a black white guy. He's not the kind of white guy. Even I mean, he's like the stripped down, simple and plain white guy. He's not even doesn't seem like a white guy that has like flavor, like real flavor and soul. I ain't gonna even gonna say like black flavor. He's not a black white guy. He's not Eminem. He's not a white guy that wears. I mean, I ain't gonna say like J's and things like that. Like, but he he don't got the certain bravado even. Gabe doesn't have a certain bravado that you would expect, even to match her. She's so she's like at a level 9, and he's like 7 or 6. Honestly, I mean, just in outspokenness about things. Um, Troy, he's a character. He's a great character. He's a very vibrant character. I feel like at the end, he does what he's supposed to do. He upholds the idea of the black male superhero archetype. He ends up breaking the glass at the end of this the when they have this protest at this broken the glass at this protest. And I will say I do believe that breaking the glass is symbolic and meaning to shatter preconceptions, shatter. We can't ignore this anymore. The glass is broken, so now we got to do something. We can't say that this didn't happen. Um, but he deals a lot with Coco sexually, and to a certain extent, they present they feel like Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. Coco is Michelle all day. Like you could tell, that's her aspiration. She even says that she wants to be the second female president. Um, Troy, he is very driven. He's smart and he's driven, but he hides the fact that he smokes weed from his father. His father piss tests him regularly. Um, and the thing is, they are a good duo because they are both driven to try to help people, but they are. I mean, he's a black male and he does things. I mean, he's still young and in college and everything, and he likes sex. Who doesn't? Um, but they are very much alike. They are very much alike, and Coco is likened to her father. I mean, to Troy's father because they have experienced racism firsthand many times before. Um, Calandria, she knows that Calandria Coco knows about racism. She's experienced firsthand. So she's like, let's try to, we can work on the system and work on the problem, but we have to do it through certain means. We have to do it through certain masks. Um, their Calandria and the rhetoric Calandria and Troy's father, their ideology seems to echo rhetoric of W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Booker T. Washington, in that about the working class, and that, well, I would say both of them. Booker T. Washington was more focused on the fact that we have to work forward, but slowly over time, to bring change. W.B. Du Bois would say that there would be the talented to the top 5, top percent of, maybe he didn't say, he said top 10%. He didn't say top 5, the other 5%. The talent, the certain certain few of us would ascend into greatness certain over time, not all of us all at once. And both of these will have an understanding that we have to work with the system as it is now before we can change the system for the betterment overall. Um, and they work, and with this, with these ideologies at play, some of their practices can come off as cold. But it's because they know the facts. They know how cold the world really is, regardless of how people like Sam would try to acknowledge it. She thinks she's going to speak on it and it's going to be changed the next day. And they know it's not, it will never happen that fast. Um, what was really shocking, especially at the end, and I ain't going to say it was shocking, it showed. Because when Troy was getting locked up, it was in handcuffs at the end, and he saw a police officer. The father came out and saw a police officer pulling out his gun. He said, "Don't shoot, don't shoot. That's my son," and pushed him out the way. And um and instantly, the father had tears coming down his eyes instantly, and like it just shows. I mean, a friend of mine, he was saying that he about wanted to cry when he saw Reggie getting held at gunpoint. Well, he didn't do anything. I mean, he was fighting, but he didn't do anything. He got held at gunpoint. They had to give up his ID for no reason. I ain't even gonna front. And the cops was just like, "You just give me your ID, then it would have been nothing." But it's like, to a certain extent, why does it matter? I wasn't doing anything wrong. Why do I need to give you my ID at all? I'm not being charged for a crime. I do believe in this law, but I'm not being charged for a crime. Why do I need to give you? Why does it matter who I am? I mean, I had that happen to me a few years back. I'm just getting off work, walking up to a grocery to a convenience store. Some police roll up on me, calling me by a name that won't mind, calling me Benjamin. Are you Benjamin? I'm like, no, I'm not Benjamin. That is not my name. And then they asked me for my ID. I'm like, I don't have to give you my ID for nothing. And then they was like, just give us your ID or whatnot. And I gave it to them. I'm like, that is not who I am. Um, And they said if you just give us ID early, faster, it would have been the issue. Is that a third? But it's like I'm not who you look. I mean, it don't matter. Like you don't know who you look at. Like you know. Well, what if I didn't have my ID on me? Um, it could have been a lot worse. Um, okay. I feel that this show. I feel like this is a great show. It speaks on race in ways. I think it even said it speaks on race in a very creative way, creates these relationships, these dynamics with these people to exemplify how complicated race is. Like you can't really summarize this show. The movie doesn't summarize things well enough. I mean, sometimes Kalandria just wants to succeed. She just wants to move forward. She wants to help black people. Helping black people is a part of her cause. She just wants to move forward. Sam wants to help black people, and to a certain extent, help moving forward isn't as big of a goal of hers. I'm sure, of course, she wants to be successful, but Calandria is a lot more outwardly ambitious and more willing to disregard the black cause and black issues per se, more so than Sam. Um, it's a great show. It makes me wonder. It makes me. I feel like God, race is meant to be a thing that we are supposed to figure out. Um, Something that we are meant to overcome because there's no other way that I mean we wouldn't be here in these predicaments that we are in if race wasn't something that we are meant to overcome. We have to ascend higher than looking at seeing it. I mean, and treating people, but throughout history, I feel like a lot of racial things throughout history were done because of money. how money capitalism plays into the system in America and worldwide. That history has to be acknowledged. Um, it can't be forgotten. It has to be acknowledged and resolved. Um, to a certain extent, I suppose some people would say that reparations, especially in America, reparations for slavery could equalize the system. But I don't think that'll ever happen personally. I mean, I would say that yes, reparations would help. Reparations would help the system, would make things more equal. But it's too many white people in power right now. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they care enough about black people because then that would be an apology. They don't want to out really apologize that much. They apologize to the Jews, but in my head, I don't think they're gonna do that. But I mean, it's like I pray God help us all. God help us all because this is something and it never stops. It never ends. Every day, every other day, you hear about black people being shot. Not just black people. I mean, race is further compounded by social economic issues. So if you're poor, it was just black people who were poor, but now a lot of white people are poor. White people always been poor too, but white people, and other persons of color, not just black people, like Hispanics and everything, have been getting their own share of police brutality. This isn't new, but um, it's a great show. It's a great show. There's a lot. There's a lot to be learned from it. Um, it's deep. It's heartfelt. I don't feel that you only need to have gone to college to understand it. Uh, it helps. I mean, I feel like I knew these people. I could probably name some of these people by name, like the stereotypes or whatnot, stereotype archetypes, as I experienced them on my college campus. But also, I feel like these are good archetype, or these are characters that you see inside yourself. Also, when have you been motivated by these things? And when have your motivations been as complex as Calandria's? When has your motivation for love been as complex as Sam? Um, when she was doing when she wants love, she can't get it through the black within the black experience to her understanding at that time. So she had to get it from a white man. But when have your experience, your motivations and goals been as complex as Troy's? He is outwardly and outrightly he does he doesn't really want to be as ambitious as his father pushes him to be. He hides the fact that he smokes weed, but that's not necessarily a real detriment to him. But you know, his father would probably think it is if it's such a big thing that if it's such a big thing to his father that he not smoke weed. Um, he doesn't want him to go down that path, and that path, that whatever the father sees that path as, he doesn't want his son to go down that route. As if smoking weed is the worst thing in the world. But he's trying to keep him on the straight and narrow, but he's still, I mean, Troy is a great character. He's smart, he's driven, he is very professional, but he still smokes weed. And it's what it is what it is. I guess I'm just trying to think of anything else about it. It's you just gotta watch it. Like at the end, I recommend everybody watch Dear White People, the movie and the series. I'm looking forward to seeing where else the series goes. Honestly, it's I wish it was on TV because I think people could like TV, so people could. I wouldn't have minded growing up with this show, and I hope that people younger than myself can grow up, the youth, the teenagers, it's not different world, but I feel like it's necessary. It's just as necessary for motivation, for understanding of self. I feel like shows like Different World. I'm a millennial. When I was growing up, college seemed just necessary. It seemed that you were like that was what you were supposed to do. Um, and I feel that with if other people watch shows like this, especially youth, then we can get to an understanding of what is necessary for race, understanding of race, and free moving, non. With shows like this, we can have conversations about race without it being a volatile space. It's given us a lot of things to talk about. It's given us a lot of different viewpoints so that we can have conversations about race, which are very much necessary at this point in history, not just American history, but history all over, so that we can understand how universal the pains of oppression and slavery, mental and physical, psychological slavery, how they are apparent and how deep the pain and the sickness goes. Um, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If y'all have any other questions, y'all can. I hope you like it, like the video, and share it with your friends. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll do another. I do another question on this. I do another video on this topic. Any other comments, we could talk about them. I want to talk about it more. If y'all follow me on Facebook, I might go live and talk about this sometime soon. And let's all, whether you do it with me or not, keep the conversation going so that we can get to a place where we can all love each other as we are, regardless of our colors. And hope y'all have a great day, and take it easy. Peace. Brandon Basile signing off.